And there's a passage that I find really interesting. It's in Hebrews, and it's interesting because, we think Paul probably wrote it, not sure. But whoever the author was in a really interesting place. He had to explain the whole idea of the church to people from a whole other paradigm. Old Testament thinking that the Jewish system was the temple. It was all about the central place of the temple. And now all of a sudden this idea of a living church, a living temple. And so as he writes this, he has to put it in terms, he chose his words very carefully. I know Scripture is all inspired, but when he was writing this, he chose his words very carefully. Hebrews 12:22 says, "But you have come to Mount Zion." If I was speaking to Hebrews, yeah, that would make sense. Mount Zion, we understand that, the whole idea of the heavenly place. And to the city of the living God. Oh, yeah, sure, Jerusalem, the heavenly Jerusalem. To an innumerable company of angels. They understood that. But verse 23 brings two terms together that identify this thing called a church, that makes one or helps one to be holy and in turn be whole. And verse 23 says this, "To the general assembly and church of the firstborn who are registered in heaven, to God the judge of all, to the spirit of just men made perfect." All of the gospel is in that phrase. It's all in that phrase. But the big part we're looking at is what defines the church. There's two terms there, and the two make a whole. The first one was general assembly. General assembly. And in these terms, the first general assembly had a concept in the original, in the Greek. Paneguris was the word. And it was an all-inclusive word. It meant universal companionship, is what the word literally meant. Universal companionship. Now, we got folks in here, maybe all of you have been in this situation, that are snowbirds, and they go back and forth. And they come, man, I feel at home when I come to Canaan. And they go back to California or wherever else they're going, New Mexico, Four Corners, wherever it is. But they can go somewhere else, and even though that's a place far away from here, it resonates with the same faith. It's, yeah, I'm at another home, but it's still the home. It's the same faith. You know, Steve and I think probably Rich and Pam have experienced this too. I remember when we were in Kenya, we went down to Kajabi Town. The entire service was in Kikuyu. And even the hymnal was in Kikuyu. Not that it was the Kikuyu, but even the hymnal was in Kikuyu. And we were just singing away to these words because we knew the tune. But we knew, as different as these people were, they resonated with our hearts because they were the same faith. They were part of the Paneguris. They were part of this universal, all-inclusive. God doesn't reject anyone. We can reject him, but he doesn't reject. Everyone is open, this general, all-inclusive, the family far larger than we are thing going on. But the second word is ekklesia. Church is ekklesia, the word itself. And it carries a whole other connotation, especially if you were back in that ancient Greek time. See, in there, the closest thing we really have to the secular, if you will, use of the word ekklesia is probably jury duty. There were certain responsibilities in deciding for the community, and it got rotated around to different members, and you were called to the ekklesia. You were called to be there. Now we're talking exclusive in a way. It's not everybody wasn't called at the same time you were called. And by golly, you better be there. Because if you were called to this thing, there were heavy penalties if you did not show up. It was a serious responsibility. It was a serious calling. It had heavy accountability, and it was very exclusive. So you see these two words getting used towards the Hebrew. As a matter of fact, put them together, and it was probably Ekklesia Paneguris would explain the whole church system. It's all-inclusive and yet extremely exclusive in calling. Your calling isn't mine in a specific sense or mine yours. It's both things. There's deep personal accountability and yet this vast, vast inclusive family.